Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Really hope you guys are having a good day, and I hope you're ready for episode 4 of our Twitter application series tutorial. Now, in today's lesson, we're going to finish off the design implementation of all of our user cells. So first off, I want to show you guys where we left off last time, and then what the end result of today's video is going to look like. Okay, so inside of Adobe Photoshop, we have a couple of screenshots on the left side right here. And this screenshot in the middle represents our current application, which is what you see in the simulator right now. And by the end of today's video, we are going to achieve this design implementation in the middle right here. It's going to include the user profiles image, the couple of text components in the middle column, and also the follow button, which is in this Twitter blue color on the right side. So hopefully you guys are excited, and we're going to dive into the coding right now. So this is our view. Going to tab into Xcode right here. The file that we're currently in is cell.swift. The easiest way to start off today's video, I think, is to use the image view to actually replace the red block right there. So what I'm going to do inside of Xcode is to open up the assets right here. Now, assets is where all of your static images should be. So what that means is I'm going to drag in this profile image view from Finder right here somewhere. And this is my current Twitter profile image view, and it's called profile image like that. So going back into cells.swift into the user cell class, I can automatically change the image view .image equals profile image like that. Now in Xcode 8, you can just straight up type the UI image like that, and it'll give you the actual UI image object. So that's what you get. And if I blow this up just a little bit, you'll notice that the edges of all of these profile images right here, they're not rounded like the ones we have in the mock. So how do we modify our app so that it is rounded on the corner? It's very easy if you first remove the red, I guess, and image view.layer.corner radius equals 5 image view.layer.mask to bounds equals true. So I'm going to run this app now, and hopefully we'll get the corner radius to be a nice soft rounded corner of radius 5, which looks like this right here. So you can also use something called image view.clips to bounds equals true. That also works. You can choose whatever you like to use. So let's shrink the simulator back up to the corner, and you see the rounded edges are still there. The next component to modify is the Twitter user's full name, which is underneath the name label component. And I'm going to go ahead and replace the text with my name like that, remove the green color, and change the font to some bold font like this with a value of 16 in font size. So removing the green background color and also replacing the font with a bold will give us what this mock is sort of showing right now. And so running the app, we get the username right there. And now let's replace the purple component with the build that app username right there. So instead of username, we'll use at build that app. Okay. Remove the purple like so. Let's say label.font equals UI font system font of size. Let's use perhaps 14. I think that looks okay. And run the application now. You're going to see the username being rendered out correctly. However, I think the layout is going to be a little wonky there. It's a little lower than we would want it to be. So let's go ahead and move to set of views down here. And you see the username right here. The top constant is responsible for the amount of padding between the bottom anchor and the top anchor. So this, if you change the 8 into a 0 instead and run the application now, you're going to get no padding between the name label and the user name label. And doing that will achieve a closer rendition of the mock right here. So the next thing to do is, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and change the yellow block right here to include the bio text. So this is going to involve a little bit of typing. Let me just remove the background color and say text view dot text equals, let's just type this out, iPhone, iPad, iOS, programming, community, period, join us to learn Swift, Objective C, which I don't think you really need to learn anymore, and build iOS apps with a bang. So what is that going to do for us now that we've modified the text right there? Well, the yellow block is no longer going to be yellow. Instead, it will just have the text being rendered out right there. You notice how the font is extremely small, which means we will modify the font to be a UI font of system size. Let's see, font. Let's just use a value of 15 and see how large that appears. So running the app now, we get the text to be a lot larger. However, the left of the text is not properly aligned, and also the top is a little further down below than I would like it to be. So I'm gonna go back to set up views, and for the bio text view, we have these two values, top constant and left constant. Remember, the top constant is the top padding. So if I push it up by 4, I can use -4, and I'll push it to the left with a -4 as well. So these negative values actually push it in the reverse direction, and obviously if you use positive values, it'll push it to the right side and also down from the top. So that's what that modification allows us to achieve. The one thing I want to modify now is, you see how the username label has a text color of something other than pure black. So that means the color can be modified inside of username label. I'm going to say label.text color equals some kind of UI color. Now, the LBTA components package that we integrated from one of the previous videos includes a convenience color method called RGB. So R is going to be value of 230, G 230, and B of 230. So 230 for RGB gives us a grayish color. And if you run the application now, it gives us that really, really light color. So I'm going to go ahead and perhaps change this value to something else. I'm going to go ahead and zoom into the Photoshop guy right here. Click that. Click on the little guy right here. And this color says 124, 131, and 139. And that means I'm going to just give it a value of 130 and 130 and 130. So what I'm doing in Photoshop is using this eyedrop tool thing, which is this thing right here. And then it gives me the color that I want. Okay, so that is appearing a lot lighter and somewhat closer to what we have in our mock here. Now, the final step to finishing up the design implementation is to use a button instead of this cyan color. And the button is being rendered through the follow button component right there. So let's go ahead and change that into a button instead of this block. So the easy way of doing that is to remove the background color and say button.layer.corner radius equals, let's use a value of 5, and button.layer.border, let's see, border color is equal to some kind of color. So I'm going to go ahead and use, let's see, cyan again, and use CG color for this border color. Button.layer.border width is a value of, let's use 1. So let's run this and see what we actually get inside of our button. I'm going to expect to see a rounded corner radius button, which looks like that right there. To set the title inside, I'm going to go ahead and say button.setTitle, and let's just use a string that says follow and a state of .normal like so, and see where that gets us. So I'm gonna have to modify the color a little later to match the Twitter blue color. And it's pretty simple once I show you guys how to do that. So that's what we get. The button, let's see, set title color is that right there. So the reason why you don't see the titles is because I believe the font is defaulted to yellow, or defaulted to white rather. So that means I'm going to zoom out of this guy and use a little eyedrop guy again inside of Photoshop. Click on that, click on this right there, and gives me these 3 values. So if I move, let's see, if I move this guy up here, go back to Xcode, I have those three values, which I'm going to specify here. Let Twitter blue equals UI color, that with RGB values of 61, 167, and 244 for blue. Title color will be Twitter blue. Control state will be of normal like that. Let's try to run this right now and get out of this guy, hopefully. So cancel out of that, go back into Xcode, run the application right there, and this is what we get. So you notice how the follow button has this bluish color and then the cyan is showing up for the border color. How we can fix this is if I move the Twitter blue up to, let's say, the top up here, I'm going to use Twitter blue instead of cyan. So Twitter blue like so, and still use the CG color because this expects a CG color value. Now, what I can also do is to modify the font of the follow button. So the follow button you'll see is a font that is a little thicker, which means I can do this right here. Button.title label.font equals UI font of a bold system font. Let's just use 14 for now. And that's going to give me this little font right here of 14 bold, which looks like that right there. So that is quite nice. Now what do I want to do to kind of finish off everything? Well, we are still missing this little follow icon on the left of the follow button. And if I go into Finder again, I have the follow button there. So opening up Assets Catalog, dragging into this right here, you get the little follow icon. And I pretty much just photoshopped these icons out of the official Twitter app. That's how I typically get my icons. So having that icon available in my assets right now, I'm going to say button.set image right there. And let's just use follow, gives me that, and control state of normal. Okay, so a couple of things that are kind of tricky about setting the images is whenever you set the image like that, the coloring might not always be perfect. So that looks okay. The color is taking the color of, I believe, the title color right here, I believe. And now you see how the icon is kind of sized improperly because the image view.content mode needs to be scale aspect fit like that. So scale aspect fit just maintains the 1-to-1 aspect ratio of your image. And what I mean is if I drag in what the button really looks like, it looks like this right here. And that is the exact representation of the aspect ratio. So that's how you get the follow button to look like that. For those of you guys that are really, really detail oriented, you'll notice that the image view and the follow button, they're not exactly centered into this button right here. It's a little off. And to modify this so that it's a little bit centered is to push the image view to the left just a little bit. And to do that, we will say button.image insets or image edge insets equals UI edge insets with this top constructor of 0. Left will be, let's just use -8, 0 for the rest. So running that now, we're going to push the image that the button is using to the left just a little bit. And if you notice now, the image right here, it's being separated by a bigger spacing, a bigger gap from the actual follow text, and it's closer to the left edge. If you really want to achieve perfection, you can modify these values until you're happy. And you can also modify the title label edge insets to be something that you want as well. So if you want to do that, go ahead and change those values. And it looks like we are pretty close to the design that we need in our application right here. I want to show you guys finally how to modify the header and the footer to include this who to follow text and the show me more at the bottom. So let me just drag that back up here. So the header looks like this and the footer looks like that. So how can I move this? I guess I'll just leave it there. Let's just modify the header first. And inside of cells.swift, we have this user header guy right here. And the background color is being rendered as this blue right there. And I'm going to modify user header to include a text label. So let text label be a, let's see, UI label like so. And we'll let label equals UI label like that. Label.text, not text color, but just text equals who, all caps, who to follow like that. Returning this label and then closing off the braces with a paren, executing this label block here, giving me the label. I believe label.font is going to be UI font of, let's just use system's font size of 16. So that gives me the label. If I remove the blue color and run the application, the header is going to appear completely gone from the app. And that's a good start to start laying out our subview of the text label by adding the subview text label. And now text label will need to be anchored into this view somehow. So this view is anchored directly in the center. So one thing that you can do, which will speed up things, is to use this method called fill super view. And this just makes sure the label fills the entire width and height of the super view, which is the which is the user cell. So that gives me that, right? And if I want to push it to the left, I actually have to apply the anchoring system, just like we did in the last lesson. So anchor, let's just use this guy, top. So what is the top? Top anchor is the cell's top. Left is the cell's left anchor like that. Bottom is the cell's bottom anchor like so. The cell's right anchor like that. Top is 0. Left, I'm going to use a value of 12. The rest of these values are going to be 0. So hopefully this is kind of easy to follow. It makes my life as a iOS programmer a lot easier because I don't have to type so much. And this gives me exactly what I want, which looks like that. And we're missing the separator line views, but I'll show you guys how to do that perhaps in another video. The last bit of modification is to include the footer down at the bottom to show me, let's see, the footer is here. This footer actually says, show me more right there. Let me see if I can push that down. And if I want to do that, if I want to render out the show me more, I can just include another text label inside of this user footer. So down here, I'm going to copy that. And for the text, I'm going to say, show me more. What do we have as the font? Let's just use this blue color again. So font, user size 16, I guess that's okay. That's 16. Let's just push it down to 15 just for demonstration. And now I want to get the blue color just like what we have in the follow button. And I can actually take the blue color from the follow button down here, this footer blue. One thing that you can do is to cut the entire thing and then paste it up above right here, making it accessible for all of your classes. So that's how that kind of works. I'm going to just go ahead and say label.textColor equals Twitter blue. And now remove the green and run the application now just to make sure everything is working. And what you'll see is that the footer is no longer rendering as green. However, it's not rendering anything else either. So let's add this text label into the subview. So subview, text label, and then now text label dot anchor. See anchor. And I can type out all the anchors, but I know it looks pretty similar to the who to follow label at the very top. So why don't we just match this guy up entirely and run the application now to see if it is placed in the right position inside of our, let's see, our app in the footer below. So now you see this right here, the show me more is really, really far down. And the reason is because inside of home data source controller, the footer, let's see, header, footer, the header or the footer should actually be a size of 50. So that's what that looks like right there. And let's see what this renders out. That looks okay. That looks okay. Everything looks okay. All right, so one quick thing I want to mention about our layout right now, let me just drag this in the middle, is that the user name label right here is currently being cut off by the bio text view. And the reason for that is because text views come with a white background by default. So going back into user cell, I'm going to go ahead and go into bio text view and say text view dot background color equals dot clear. And running this is no longer going to cut off our username label, and the P's, or the tails of the P's, will show up correctly right now. So I'm gonna run the application. You see the P's right here are showing up nicely and crisply inside of our layout. All right, so that's going to be it for today's lesson. Really hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned a lot from today's video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. In the next video, we are going to talk about how to set up proper user model objects so that we can fill our lists with dynamic content. Remember, source code is always down below in the description. Click the link, download the project, and play around with the code. That's going to be it for me today. Keep on coding, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.